I don't have a philosophical objection necessarily to a travel ban if that is the thing that is going to keep the American people safe. The problem is that in all the discussions I've had thus far with experts in the field, experts in infectious disease, is that a travel ban is less effective than the measures that we are currently instituting.
That was President Obama talking about whether a travel ban could help contain the threat of Ebola. We'll have that and more right here, right now on the News Hub. Good morning and welcome. I'm Simon Constable, and with more on the battle to contain the deadly disease, we have WSJ Atlanta Bureau Chief Betsy McKay, and she heads up coverage of the Centers for Disease Control, amongst many other things. Betsy, thanks for being here yet again with this. Let's talk about the travel ban.
Yeah. Well, a travel ban, President Obama did say he'd be open to it. That's a change. The administration has been pretty set against one up until now. And the reason is it's very complicated to impose a travel ban. I mean, how do you completely stop people coming in from those three countries, particularly people who are going and coming from here to provide aid? The other thing is it would be difficult to provide ban people from coming into the United States over through land routes. So it's it sends a terrible signal, and it complicates things as well.
Okay, so he's pretty much against that at the moment, although that may change. He's not against it. One of the things that we talked about yesterday was whether there would be a restriction on travel by health workers. We haven't heard any more about that, and that hasn't even been raised. But let's go on to one of the nurses who has now been transferred to the National Institutes of Health. Tell us more about that.
Well, this was the second. So both nurses now who were, workers at Texas Health Presbyterian have been moved from that hospital to different special facilities in the U.S. One was moved to Emory 2 days ago, and then Nina Pham, the first nurse to get sick, was moved to the NIH. These two, both of them were moved to special biocontainment units. There are 4 of them in the U.S., and these are the only places where Ebola patients had been treated until the first Texas case arose. They were built, a decade or so ago for the purpose of treating people with very serious diseases, mostly airborne diseases. And they provide, the main thing they have, besides a high level of isolation, which you actually don't really need for more isolation than you need for Ebola, but they have staffs who are specially trained, do lots of drills, lots of practice in wearing protective gear and protecting themselves.
And that's one of the things we've learned is that taking off the clothing, the protective clothing, is very important. And if you do it badly, you can actually infect yourself, which is not good. That's exactly what they're trying to avoid. Is the fact that the patient, Nina Pham, has been transferred to the National Institutes of Health, is that a sign that things have been mishandled by other hospitals?
Well, it's a sign that no one wants to treat the two of them now in the Texas hospital. I mean, I think it gives more confidence that they will get the treatment that they need. It's also, the situation in Texas has become difficult. There are two health workers were exposed. One can only imagine how the other health workers now feel and the fear they may feel. The problem with moving, with setting a precedent of moving patients from quote unquote regular hospitals to these special units is there are only 4 of them in the U.S. If you had a lot of Ebola patients at once, you couldn't treat everyone there. So the long-term solution is to better train hospitals so that they can care for these cases.
Okay, and Betsy, there is talk about the appointment or the creation of a new role, Ebola czar. Doesn't sound like much of a fun role at all. Tell us more.
Yeah. The president said this last night that he would consider appointing an Ebola czar to oversee the government's Ebola response across all the agencies. It's actually not a brand new idea. I mean, it's surfaced again now because of the events this week. It also came up about a month ago. Remember that we've sort of forgotten this week that there is a big government response going on to the to the situation in West Africa, and the government is putting a lot across several agencies, a lot of effort into that, and we've sent the military over there. So there's two things going on. We've got a domestic response now and an overseas one.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, as always. Always a pleasure with Betsy McKay of the Wall Street Journal.